What is up, YouTube? My name is Lock the Yeti, and welcome back to Planet Zoo with a Zookeeper. Now, this next one that you guys are going to watch is one of my truly favorite animals in the entire world. You guys are going to hear that very often with this series. This is the American alligator. So a slight misstep that I had in our last video. I did not give a viewing area to the public. So in this one, we kind of started off with that area, and then I got to work on the enclosure. The idea I had for this enclosure was to give us an underwater viewing area. Problem that I ran into is that I do not know the mechanics well enough to add water at the viewing line for the public. So you can kind of see me mess around with that. I tried to put some of the cliffs over the glass and tried to run the water in front of the glass, and it just was not working for me. What I came up with instead was to put the water right at the viewing line. So instead of them floating necessarily at your eye level, they're floating right at your toes, which I feel like is still pretty good. And this leaves me room to build an upstairs to this area. What I want this building eventually to be is a reptile house, and we can put reptile exhibits kind of around the area of the interior. And then we can build a second floor that also has viewing out to our gator enclosure. And this view is more geared towards their land area, so if the gators are up on that top portion basking in the sun, our public still has a good, decent view of them. Zookeeping to the side, let me teach you guys some stuff about the alligators. Biggest question we get all the time: what is the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? And the answer is a lot simpler than you might think. If you come to our zoo and you say goodbye to them, one says see you later and one says see you in a while. All jokes aside, before I explain the difference to you guys, we always like to preemptively let you guys know that if you are trying to identify one and you are close enough to tell the difference, you are too close to the wild animal. First, and the one that most people are aware of, is their snout. Alligators will have a more U-shaped, kind of blunt snout, whereas crocodiles are more known for their V-shaped snout. Now, this can't always work out because reptiles are kind of odd. If they're malnourished or they're not eating properly, there can be some weird growths with their jaws. Also, reptiles get injured a lot, honestly, and especially out in the wild, there can be missing jaws and damage and things like that. So, jaw isn't always a guaranteed way to tell the difference. A good place to start when you're identifying the two is identifying where you are. First thing is there's only two species of alligator. So if you're anywhere besides America or China, you don't have an alligator in front of you. Crocodiles like saltwater or brackish water. Brackish water, if you're unfamiliar, is kind of like an in-between. It's not quite all the way up to the salinity of saltwater, but it is above freshwater. So you're not going to find a crocodile inland like a lake or a river. But let's just say for fun, you are at the only place in the entire world where you can find both crocodiles and alligators. Welcome to Florida. Now, to circle all the way around and answer your original question on what the difference is, the gators tend to be a nice dark black color as they mature, and the crocodiles will stay kind of around a muddy brown, sometimes a dark green color. Now, if we check out the beautiful smile on both animals, you will see a nice clean row of teeth on the alligators. Only the top teeth are going to show on our alligator friend. And for the crocodiles, you're going to see a really big snaggletooth poking up from the bottom jaw. And that is your telltale sign on if you're looking at an alligator or a crocodile. As I mentioned before, if you are close enough to tell the difference in their teeth, you are way too close to that wild animal. Try to observe these animals from afar because they still are some of the biggest animals on the entire planet and can be highly dangerous. Speaking of danger level, that is another slight difference between alligators and crocodiles. Crocodiles are innately just a little bit more aggressive than alligators. Alligators tend to be more docile. You can get a little closer to them. They really just want to be left alone for the most part. And crocodiles will eat zebras whole. So you pick which one you want to hang out with. The differences don't stop there because we can talk about their size too. Gators average around 11 feet for males and around 8 feet for females. They are completely dwarfed by saltwater crocodiles. The largest saltwater crocodile was almost exactly 20 feet long, and that is massive in comparison to the largest alligator, which was 15 feet. So there are a ton of differences between these two animals. But this is not a crocodile episode, this is an alligator episode, so let's talk alligator. Alligators can have 80 teeth in their mouth at one time and go through about 3,000 in their entire lifetime. They have a built-in goggle that allows them to see underwater. The technical term is a nictitating membrane, and some other species like birds will use this for keeping dust out of their eyes. Alligators will use it to see very clearly underwater. One of my favorite things about the gator that has been hypothesized is that this animal might have walked right along the dinosaurs. When the big extinction event happened with the meteor, that blanketed partial parts of the planet in dust, and that blocked out the sun, and things couldn't grow, and the herbivores started to pass away. And when the herbivores start to pass, then the carnivores start to pass, and you have your extinction event where you lose all of your dinosaurs. Well, our gator friends are lizards. They aren't technically dinosaurs, so they can go through what's called brumation. And the modern day alligator brumates during their cold period, where they just kind of sink to the bottom of the lake that they're in, and they basically shut their body off and they go into like a low power mode. They're only breathing a couple times per day. Their heart is only beating a couple beats per minute, and they're just going to wake up when it gets warmer and pretend like nothing happened. So there is a hypothesis that these guys have gone relatively unchanged for millions of years, walked along the dinosaurs, and were able to survive because they just turned their bodies off and went to sleep for a couple years. And before I drop possibly the most wild information on you guys, if you've made it this far into the video, consider leaving a like, comment what other animals you guys want to see. I'm kind of focusing on animals that I personally worked with because it makes the education portion a lot easier for me. And maybe consider subscribing if you like this kind of content. I am trying to get more into this, but I do play a wide variety of video games. Shameless self-promotion out of the way, back to the gator. The possibly craziest hypothesis about the alligator is that this is possibly a bird. Now, you guys are probably calling me insane at this point, and that is okay, but if we really break it down, it makes a lot of sense. Reptiles, by and large, have 3-chambered hearts. Birds have 4-chambered hearts. Alligators, you guessed it, 4-chambered hearts. If that's not odd enough, if you look at their breathing system, humans breathe in and out of our lungs. Birds have kind of like a pass-through breathing, is what we like to say. It's one directional. Guess what? Alligators have that too. Well, what about having babies? Birds lay eggs. Lizards lay eggs. Most snakes lay eggs. It can't be that different, but it truly is. Lizards and reptiles will generally lay their eggs and they'll leave, never to come back, and they just kind of hope that their offspring make it. Birds tend to be very maternal, paternal. They will come and feed their young and make sure all of the eggs hatch and help them hatch if they don't. And gators are just the same, all the way down to nest building. Gators will have massive nests in their native areas. Moms will count their eggs, make sure they all hatch, make sure they make it to the water. Babies will ride around with mom for the first couple months to years, and they have very strong parental instincts. Plus, there's all those ideas that your modern-day chicken is basically the modern ancestor of the T-Rex. So how far removed is it for the alligators to be a close relative to them? Taking the tinfoil hat off for a second, let's get back to our enclosure. I started terraforming here, adding in our soil, trying to bump up those needs. A little bit different than how I handled the clouded leopards last time. I kind of wanted to meet the needs this time and see if I could spike all of those bars, and I actually completed that during this playthrough. Adding some enrichment here to kind of tie everything in, a heater to the water, a mud basking area. I love how much enrichment they offer for the alligators in Planet Zoo. Not a sponsor, but if you want to, hit me up. Because gators are very intelligent animals, and they need enrichment just like the mammals do, just like the birds do. Now this moves swiftly into some interior design on the inner portion of that reptile house. And I tried to get the pathing right, and I was just having a lot of trouble. So I did end up pausing and kind of resetting and forgetting to unpause at one point. So you guys will kind of see me mess around with some things here as I try to figure out the flooring system and then jump straight to where I had it figured out. So we'll just hang out for a second. And this is where I realized I'm dumb and forgot to unpause. So you can see that interior finished in the background there. And just like our clouded leopard video, let's take a moment and watch this beautiful animal and listen to the music. If you enjoyed this video, leave me a like, comment down below what animal you guys might want to see next, and of course, subscribe for more. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.